G'day everyone, just thought this Newcastle Race 3 was a race worth looking at in a little bit more detail, just because a few things line up. It does look an interesting race. First of all, I want to look at the favourite, which is $1.95 Manouche. It's had one start at Canterbury, average race, so they, a length and a half below standard. They went out just below, came home a little bit slower, so not a super race. Obviously not easy.
White Cap Ultra.
Obviously not easy to come from back in the field at Canterbury as a rule. The track was it a 5 or a 6 here? They put up a 9. The horse there at the start, the winners, there's a few things I want to distinguish. So the winners probably got more speed than it, but eased out. You see this horse is sort of ridden along to hold a position, even though it's out the back, Manouche. The winner's behind it. Sort of has free galloping room all the way, Manouche. It's a little bit checked there. But does get a trail up into the turn, which is important. Gets to the outside. So two things to note here. How dominant this horse is late over this horse. They've had basically the same run. This horse has more speed, in my opinion, so dragged out. This horse has got less. So that can't dictate where it is in the race in the future. At this stage, it's only had one run, so that's the one scary part about this. The other thing to look at is the congestion among these horses here, and how a lot of them do not have galloping room, and some do cop interference, which allows this horse to slingshot past them. So the Waller horse, the David Payne horses, both cramped for room, checked. This horse, every possible chance to wind up past them. And the two things are sort of how dominant this is late, and how this horse is basically, well, not labouring, but definitely not extending through the line and not getting away from these horses who are, some of them in restricted room, some of them stopping. And, it gets past them, but not super strong. So whereas, in going into too much detail, the winner was the fastest last 400, 200 of the night. It was sort of 10th and 12th, and that's sort of the difference. And it had a nearly identical run. Going into this race, it goes up in distance. I don't see that as a huge issue. It was 1,100 metres on debut here. I'm not saying there. The setup here is not terrible. Up to 1,200. Does swap a wider draw. Drew 3 there. Draws 3 again, so same draw. Drops in weight, which is interesting, going from a fillies maiden back to an open maiden. So even though it's coming back to provincial level, you'd say, it does drop in weight, which is good. So it is fairly well placed. You would say that it has natural improvement to come. So it's not a horse totally devoid of any positive attributes. Definitely not. But it was flattered there, and I'm saying that it was marked off that performance here too aggressively. So the horse that I'm most interested in is this horse of Gay Waterhouse's. Blinkers off, which is interesting. First preparation, just looking for excuses of what happened with there. It had 2 runs, two trials, then 2 wet tracks, 1250, 1300. The blinkers were on for both runs, so they've come off. And did show some really fourth fastest run to the 400, sitting outside the leader its first run, then tipped out straight after its second run. So I'm penning that whole preparation. Smallish field here, which is interesting. It's not dynamic out of the gate. It's not super fast, but you'd expect it to still hold the spot from 1 here and then press for the front. The only other speed in the race is the Nathan Doyle horse. And what I just like about this horse is does everything easily. This is 740, so we're talking 1,200 a day, totally different. Like the way it pins its ears, like the way it holds those gap, and it's only a sprint home. Only a pipe cleaning, sort of clean out, 740, extends through the line strong. So you don't learn a lot from 740 trials. This is probably the one that's more important to me, which is its 1,050 metre trial 2 weeks later. Again, not super fast, draws the outside gate here. That's why you love the outside gates. Has a little bit of time to muster powers across. A couple of things from this trial. So it doesn't set a super fast speed, that's for sure, but sort of an even time. Stacks them up to the bend. And what I like is what it does late here, considering I think it will control the tempo today. Also, this horse behind the leader was probably a good thing beat at Hawkesbury, at Gosford during the week. Thing of O'Shea's.
That's Costly just in front of Kurt DeBar.
And what I really like is last 400 clicks up a bit, so it extends a bit there. Margins start opening behind, so the gaps start opening here between second, third, fourth, fifth. Trucks through the line again. Most importantly, second fastest last 200 for the day, so it's hard to sort of see things in trials a lot of the time, and I just like that it's definitely done something there off a slow tempo, and that's what I wanted to see more than anything. So I'm not saying there's super merit in running up 200 metres in a trial, there's really not, but it shows that the horse has got to turn a foot, which is important, especially if it controls this at a slowish tempo, which is more likely from an inside draw. Talk about that later. You're more likely to sort of Shanghai across from a wide draw and set up a faster tempo early, whereas here you're more likely to just try and hold your spot and stack them up, which looks ideal. Fenton I'm scared of. I liked it its first preparation. I think you'll notice it was in a 1,000 metre race on Tuesday at Orange as well. Accepted there, and it drew 17. So I would imagine it would have gone around there if it drew a gate, to be honest. I'd say off one trial there, thinking this horse may need the run, and I'm just going to play away from it today, even though it scares the life out of me with the blinkers on. I think this horse has got ability. Fenton, it's got races in it, and Ruby Gal goes okay. Just thinking she's beaten it at Wyong, Gosford, Nowra in similar races. Has a few quirks. Does have a few better things line up here today, certainly fitter than most of the runners in the race, and can run well, but I'm happy for it to beat me at this stage. I think the other horse that's quite interesting is this Tahinga. Tracks are a bit firmer than publicised its first two starts, and again, first up at Canterbury, a little bit firmer, but certainly has been on rain affected all its starts. I'll show quickly why I didn't mind its run first up. Hard to come from back and wide this night. Out the back early. Does over race a bit, which is not great, but fresh okay. This is what I like, sort of takes off before the bend, works into the race, was first up 12.50 here on a softish track. Not easy to be ridden into the bend there at Canterbury, as you see, sort of loses momentum, but runs into the race quite positively and gets sort of within maybe a couple of lengths of the lead there at the 200 metre mark, and then clearly knocks up. I wish it drew a gate here, then I would be seriously confident that these are the best two winning chances, Costly and Tahinga, but not knocked around late there and sort of got to the line soft. That was a slow run race, so good merit in that run from, say, the 8 to the 2 or 6 to the 2, and then knocked up. So I expect this horse to improve, stays at the same distance, firmer track. Wish it drew a gate so it could settle closer, but I expect it to improve in this race today. 8 minutes about one race. But I think it's just a really interesting race where you've got a favourite lining up that was a little bit flattered first up. You've got a horse resuming off excuses that's trialled up really well. You've got another horse that's got excuses in the race, and I think the market's a little bit upside down, and they're the reasons why. Cheers, guys.